I have the awesome opportunity today to be talking about faith in your deeds. So you guys already know we're going to James chapter 2, verse 14. So the Bible reads here, it says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it?" So I want to paint a picture for you guys. Like imagine, I'm sure you guys all moved before at some point to a different location or a different house. Imagine you guys have a friend and they want you to help them move, right? You know, you guys got the car, right? You know, you guys got the muscles. Maybe you guys are hitting the gym like Melissa's been hitting the gym and Elisa's been hitting the gym. You know, you guys got the strength to do it, right? You know, you guys got the car, you guys got the money, you guys got the resources to help them. But you just go, you know what, Samantha? You know what, Blake? You know, I hope your move goes excellent. Like, I hope, you know, like the U-Hauls that show up on time, like, they're going to take great care of you. You know, I'm just going to go on my couch and watch some anime and, you know, hope you have a great move. As a loving friend, is that something that you would do? No, you go and you actually help them because it's in your power to do so. In the faith, there's a certain level of obedience that needs to be followed to what you believe, right? Like, say you guys have a son, and your son, you tell, "Hey, little Jimmy, go clean your room," you know, and your son's like, "You know, I think that's a great idea, Dad." No, like you're telling him to go clean his room. There's a certain level of obedience that your son would need to carry to your instruction. In the same way, God expects obedience from us. Let's continue on here. It says, "In the same way, faith by itself, it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I'll show you my faith by my deeds. You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder." Wow, that's amazing. You know, you guys have faith in God. That's awesome. Congratulations, you just achieved demon-level faith. Wow. You know, the demons here, they believed in God, right? But that's not enough. You guys know the famous scripture in John 3:16, you know, "Those who believe them shall not perish but everlasting life." And that word for belief in John 3:16 is the same word that's being used here in the scripture, referring to the demons, where it's the Greek word piseo, which means to have faith and to trust in. Now, demons, you know, they have faith, right? They trust in God. So they're going to heaven, right? No, right? So it's not just enough to believe, because if that were the case, all the demons would be in heaven. But there's something more than just believing. There's an action, there's a little bit more that needs to take place. Having faith alone, can I say something crazy? Yeah. Might shock you guys. Having faith alone is not enough to save us. Faith without deeds is actually useless, and it shows the heart of a stale faith that we can have. You know, the demons, they fear God. Luke 8:31, you guys have to flip there. It says the demons pleaded with Jesus not to send him to the abyss. They knew the power that God had, and they did not want to feel God's wrath. They did not want to be punished by God, so they pleaded with God not to send him to the deepest pits of hell. They had a healthy fear of God. But in our lifestyles, do we reflect the same fear? Do we have less fear of God than the demons do? This is important stuff to reflect on. Continuing on verse 20, it says, "You foolish person, do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was credited him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. You see that a person considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone." You know, Martin Luther, he was a German Protestant reformer in the early 1500s. He made the idea very popular then that you could be saved based on faith alone. But this is the only Bible scripture here in James chapter 2 in the Bible that directly talks about faith alone and completely contradicts his whole entire doctrine. You know, he has his books, the Bibles that he had in the Harvard Library in Massachusetts in Cambridge. And if you go there, the book of James is not included in his Bibles. He took multiple books out of the Bible in order to feed and to validate his belief systems on salvation that is not biblical. You know what? Not just pick on Martin Luther, but we can be like that sometimes too. Where we can treat the Bible, guys, like a buffet. You know, I was at the buffet when I first came up here in Essex. I actually didn't like it that much. But I went there, and it's like, you know, they had the little chicken, the Oriental chicken. I was like, okay. They had some pasta. They had the shrimp. Like, I can get whatever I wanted. But if I didn't want to grab the French fries, I didn't have to grab it. If I didn't want to have to grab the broccoli, I didn't have to take it. You know, when I go into the buffet, I get to get what I want from it. And when we go to the Bible, we can treat it like that sometimes, where we're picking scriptures that make us feel good instead of taking the Bible as a whole. I think Martin Luther and us, we can forget 2 Timothy 3:16, where all scripture is God-breathed and is useful for everything. And we see this idea of faith and deeds all throughout the Bible. You know, this isn't just something that's mentioned in James 2. The Bible all works together. So there's multiple different stories in the Old Testament and the New Testament where your faith is accompanied by your deeds. You know, I think about Joshua when he was crossing the Jordan, and the first city that he had to conquer was Jericho. You know, these walls were anywhere from 15 to 28 feet, so unless you're like a super athlete, you probably wouldn't scale them. And, you know, what God called Joshua to do, you know, in Joshua's eyes, it might have been a strange request, but he obeyed God. So the first thing they had to do is they had to march around the city and do a lap, and they did it one time for each day with his army and the Israelites. And on the seventh day, they marched around 7 times. And afterwards, Joshua and his army, they gave this loud shout, and the walls suddenly all came down. Now, I don't know about you guys. Like, I know at the Brothers household, you know, we love bananas, right? Where we love peanut butter, you know. So every time, you know, I get home from a long day, you know, sometimes I just want to grab a banana. Sometimes I just want to grab some peanut butter. But if you live in the Brothers household, it might not be there. And you know that? You know, sometimes, like, I just want to give a loud shout. But even me with my loud shout, or maybe all of us had 30 cans of peanut butter lost, or all of our bananas lost. We all shout. All of us together cannot bring down a wall physically. Think about a football stadium. I think Ann Arbor in Michigan, they have the largest football stadium, largest stadium in that matter, in the whole entire world. They have a capacity of like 115,000 people. Even everybody in that stadium yelling at the top of their lungs after winning a game is not enough to bring down the walls at those stadiums. So we know by all of them together and the Israelites, their yelling and their loudness was not enough to bring down this wall. It was purely off the act of God, through their faith and their obedience. You know, I think about Naaman. He had to dip himself 7 times into the water. Exactly, if it was 6, if it was 8, or if it was 9, he would have not been healed of his leprosy. He had to dunk himself 7 times in the water and do exactly what God told him. I think about Moses, how he had to go after seeing God speak to him through a burning bush, and physically, you know, he physically had to lead the Israelites out of the Exodus in Egypt. Right? Imagine, you know, God was speaking to Moses, and he didn't do nothing, right? He was that friend in the U-Haul truck. He was saying, good job for you guys. But no, he went and he physically led the Israelites out of Egypt and freed them from slavery while having Pharaoh running at him and all this different adversity in his life. God was able to work through his deeds, being able to part the Red Sea, being able to do all these things for his people and leading the Israelites ultimately to the promised land. If Moses did not have deeds to accompany his faith, nobody would have been saved in that moment. Now, I want to lift up a few brothers and sisters in this room that live this example of their deeds through their faith. I want to lift up Tom. I want to lift up Tom just sharing with his employees and his co-workers at Target. You know, sharing his faith with those that need Jesus and those that need that in his life. Like, he's an amazing example of having a loving heart for people. I want to lift up Alex. You know, Alex, every time he's here, he's always giving himself. He's always giving his heart. You know, he's already, like, the coffee that you guys are drinking, that's all Alex right there. Alex is serving. I want to lift up Melissa and the way that she pours into the women in the church and has mentorship times with them and pours into them, make sure that everybody's staying strong. I want to lift up Darla for, you know, cooking Mexican food for like 3 hours yesterday so all of us can eat after service. You know, there's so much things that's amazing about God's people with the men and the women that we can't find anywhere else. Even that Kennedy was sharing, Inner Welcome, like, you know, 2 brothers driving her up to Vermont free of charge. Like, you won't find that anywhere else. But it comes with having these deeds, right? It comes with having faith first off, but having deeds and works and actions to accompany your faith, right? And I want to challenge you guys. So we see from this example, or at least I hope so, that our faith needs to be accompanied by deeds, right? Yeah. We see all these amazing examples of people obeying God. You guys may be thinking, what's my call? What do I need to do? What deeds do I need to accomplish to show my faith? And I want to encourage you guys, if you have those questions, get with the person that invited you out to church today, or get with one of us after service so you could set up a personal Bible study so you can see what deeds do I need to accomplish to be right with God. And to God be all the glory.